Going back over everything for Artificing is really reminding me why I love and adore the setting and hate the rules. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, and we are going to finally wrap things up for Artificing for 5th edition Shadowrun, and God, what a ride that's been. But if you're new here to the channel, go on down there to hit that subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already listed yourself on such a legendary list of runners, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now let's go ahead and just talk about Disenchanting. So, Disenchanting, this is the process of disrupting and even breaking down astral constructs. You may also use this skill to disjoin alchemical preparations. In either case, you draw the mana from the item and transfer it to spent reagents of your tradition, and you make them usable once more. Disjoining, however, does carry a risk. If the contact trigger was used for the alchemical preparation and you fail to disenchant it, the preparation is going to activate. Now, depending on what the preparation is, this could be benign, this could be absolutely deadly and dangerous for you. And doing so involves, algebraic equations, your disjoining skill plus, your artificing skill plus, honestly at this point, I'm tired of looking through the calculations, and I'm tired of looking through this. Not that it hasn't been interesting researching it, but it has been a little bit frustrating because this is exactly kind of what kept me and the rest of my friends from really playing within this rule set more. It's just how needlessly complicated things get, and this skill set, the skill group, is a perfect example of a player trap. I've been mentioning it and talking about it a bit before, and I mentioned it last episode when I was talking about just artificing, enchanting, making foci and the like, but it really needs to be said and gone over now. This is a trap for players. Even if you are building this specific theme and idea in mind, you're this mage, this hermetic mage, this classic wizardly tradition, and you are brewing potions within your lodge, where you may even have your own tower, your own neon lit tower with all the latest high-tech gear scavenged, scrummed up, and bought on black market deals throughout whatever region you might be operating in. You might have pieced all of this together for your lab, for alchemical creations, enchanting foci, and deconstructing the different foci and telesma that you come across in your adventures, geeking mages and taking their stuff, bringing it back to re-enchant your own reagents. It's not worth it. Flat out, it is just not worth it. This is an entirely useless player trap. I mean, take the fact of alchemical preparations. You can enchant different different objects with these temporary effects that have essentially what is going to be, a random-ish number for how strong they are and how long they last based off of their potency, and that degrades each hour, so they degrade in strength, so you can't exactly count on how effective these items are going to be before they entirely disenchant and discorporate, and the mana just bleeds away off into the ether. And enchanting, if you fail at enchanting, you potentially lose an entire point of essence, which brings down your spellcasting ability, and just not to mention how expensive the process is, and you cannot precisely enchant to the levels you want, because it's based off of the number of net hits and successes that you get, so you cannot accurately measure for what strength you want to put into, what strength of force of a spell you want to put into a foci. And if you decide that you don't like the result, then you can discard it, but you've still used up all those reagents and have to begin again. And then there's top it off the fact that if you end up taking enough drain and lose consciousness, you lose the result anyways, even if you were otherwise technically successful in creating the enchantment. And then Disenchanting. And Disenchanting seems to carry the least amount of risk to yourself in terms of this particular skill group. But even then, you're probably better off just selling the Foci to your local talismonger. Sure, you'll get 30, maybe, if you're on good terms and he's willing to pay you a good deal because you're reliable and you bring things in, maybe they'll give you 35% or even a generous 40%. But that's going to be a much better result for you than just trying to break this down to reagents, because the number of reagents you're allowed to reinvigorate with mana is up to 1/3 of the reagents used for creating that foci. So this is also more work for your GM to have to figure out as well. So it's all too much, and I would say it's just not worth it for players overall. I mean, I've lost track on the alchemical preparations point. If you want to put spells into alchemical preparations, you can't just use sorcery spells that you already cast and know. No, you have to buy the spell over again and apply it into this item for something that may not last as long as you planned for or anticipated for. And to top it off, you're definitely taking some drain in the process of making the alchemical preparation. It's not worth it. Foci are probably going to be the most useful for you long term because they are permanent and they carry that spell within them. But the risk for failure, the risk for failure is just massive. You're better off waiting until you develop these skills up to a significant level. And at that point, you're going to be creating some incredibly powerful foci, but your returns on that karma that you spend are diminished, because if you just keep developing the skill but not actually using it developing foci, because you're going to potentially lose essence if you screw up, and the lower level you are, the lower the different requisite skills are, the more likely you are to come up with a critical glitch and definitely lose that essence. It's just, no, you're better off skipping this skill group. Let your local NPC talismonger take care of this. Make friends with somebody with the alchemy skill. Do that instead and invest your skill points or your karma into developing your other skills, into developing sorcery, getting new spells and the like. Any of the meta magic things, all of that is going to be a much better use of your time. Sure, your GM has more room to say, oh, the talismonger doesn't have what you're looking for, or at least not at the strength that you're looking for. But okay, that's unfortunate, but you can still plan to make do without. That's why you're working as part of a team. It's just, no, I cannot reiterate how bad, how awful this skill group is. And for you GMs out there who might be running this, one way to consider making this better, to work better, is put in a couple of fail safes and maybe negate some of these karma costs. Say that if you're mage, shaman, whatever tradition they may be following, if they've learned the sorcery version, they're able to transcribe and transpose it over to the alchemical version. Say it, they need go and spend 5 Nuyen on a book, quill, pens, whatever, to jot it all down, or buy some kind of a tablet and type and key in all the information there. Some time and effort, a good bit of role playing, but nothing that's going to be a complete and total karma sink that just eats up their time. And the other thing I would say is, let your players have a more precise control over what exactly it is they're creating, like the amount of strength, power, potency in there. Just doing those things right there do a great deal to make these skills more attractive. They're still not combat oriented, but you still have room for them to be able to plan and plot things out a little bit better. Heck, I'd even throw in a rule where they have a specially prepared circle to bind things as they're making the, say, alchemical preparations. As long as the preparation is not removed from that binding circle, the mana has nowhere to bleed off. It's kept trapped and in place until they remove it and start making their way towards the mission site. Then they can have a better accounting of and be able to better plan out what strength the alchemical preparation is going to be at. That right there already does a lot to make things better for this skill group. As far as creating foci, the different focuses, I would, for that, the essence cost is, I can see the thematic elements behind it, but that seems pretty extreme. I would say if they critical glitch, have them roll again, and if they glitch or critical glitch again on that second roll, then it's bad enough that they lose that essence point. But otherwise, if they just screw up, maybe they just take some extra physical damage to themselves, get rendered unconscious, or maybe they are treated as if they lost essence as their body tries to reabsorb mana and build itself back up. A temporary loss as opposed to a permanent one, something that will come back over time, because all it is just mana spiraled out of control, things kind of got pulled away a little bit, and so they're just drained, they're brought down a little bit, and they're heavy, weary, a little bit sickly, their pallor is off. There's just some je ne sais quoi that's wrong with them, and so they will also account for and explain because essence is diminished if they have any social skills. Those social skills are also impacted on top of their magic casting. So all the way around, this still presents some challenges, some unique drawbacks, but makes these features much, much more interesting and usable and viable. And they're big changes, but they're simple. It's just a simple little change that just makes this work better, in my opinion. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Do you agree with me that this skill group is a player trap, or do you find I'm entirely wrong? Either way, go down to the comments below and we'll engage in discussion there. I'm pretty firmly sure I'm right on this one, especially going through all the various message boards over the last several years that 5th edition's been out. But in either case, remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there to hit the subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. I'm extraordinarily tired now. Thank you very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.